So, why again have you captured me?
I wanted to tell you my life story and close a bunch of plot holes, because you too can remember previous lives.
That's news to me. I really only remember this one, but go for it.
It all started 35 years ago. I was working at a milk canning facility learning the secret healing powers of milk. I was happy and even had a hot girlfriend. She left me though. She became obsessed with Chad Summerchild after watching Game of Thrones Season 7 watch. She kind of became a stalker. I later came across a small boy in a weirwood throne shot in the face. He was speaking madness.
My reveries, it's just a meaningless jargon word needed wanting to sound smart. They think they're so smart. Bernard changed his clothes like 6 times in a single day. None of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Why do I like watching it? It just doesn't make sense.
I healed the boy in a great milk lake, but the little boy's words stuck in my mind, and so I ventured to the other side to see if any of it actually made sense. I found no comfort in the tasting toilet, nor could I reconcile multiple timelines. Ziggy from Big Little Lies did not seem like he could be the younger version of Alexander Skarsgård. I couldn't find Alexander, but I found his brother. I found Thor's brother as well. The two hang for some reason. I told them to find Chad Summerchild and kick his ass for stealing my girlfriend. And finally I stumbled upon the legendary three-eyed bro. Or at least his corpse. It looked like he'd been smashed by a giant weight. However, before he died, I remember him telling me to wait for my ex-girlfriend after she's done torturing Chad, drowning him, tying him up, keeping him in a cave with a talking bucket, forcing him to watch Small Wonder and UHF, that she will grow tired of him and return to me. He also said something about a kraken, though I'm a little hazy on it. So as you can see, Brandon, all plot holes have been closed.
Oh, well, I really appreciate the effort and all, but, what a load of bullshit.
And so I shall recall the tale of my vision, so that you can pass it on to your children. I remember a man in black, still alive, impossibly, after being shot 5 times, including once in the stomach. Even the ancient storytellers who speak of spirits in the trees could not believe such foolishness in writing. Why is this man alive? Why has death not come for him? Come on. Come on. In the first days, the elders of the tribe had a word for this. They called it fucking stupid. There was no need for this even to have happened. The man in black was with his daughter, abandoned her just to have a massively coincidental meeting with Maeve, only to end up with his daughter again. I asked the great spirits why. Why? Akecheta then takes the dying man back to his collection of people, still wearing their bow ties, sports coats, and high heels after a week. But I remember that the tribe had left their group of collected people before, but now they have them back again. Inexplicably. Except for the dumb one. The white man called Stubbs. He was let go, because he was a main character. Irrelevant, but still a main character. Or perhaps this is a new group of people. I do not know. But in that case, we still do not know what happened to the first group of people. Misplaced in the universe, like a leaf in a great river, never to be found again. Or as the elders would say, sloppy writing. We find the little girl is there, and she remembers her mother.
What? Maeve's daughter has a mother? I didn't know that.
We discover that Akecheta was creepily giving stones with mazes painted on them to Maeve's daughter, hoping they would be helpful. Painted in blood, of course, because that's going to go over really well. We then flash to the one called Lee, who brings the host called Maeve to the man who is searching for the Great Helmet. He did not pass from this world, and it seems he completed his quest to find the helmet, though he did not bring this helmet to the Heartless One that many call Charlotte. That was very fortunate for him. Lee then lets him know that Maeve can control the other hosts with her mind, and wants her life saved. Of course, we know in this universe, hosts can easily be repaired and resurrected even when severely mutilated. We have seen this with the resurrected Confederados, and Lee, working in this place, should know this. Not to mention, they have host printers. They can just make her a new body anyway. Maeve was resurrected 7 times last season. I'm not sure why this foolish man worries so. We get back to Akecheta, who tells us that the little girl can remember past lives. This is news to the watchers, as last episode she did not recognize Maeve. But now, in this episode, she considers Maeve her mother. What about her current mother, or mothers before Maeve? This question rustles in our ears like branches in the wind, and yet we have no answers, and likely never will. We then go back to Akecheta's early life, where he lived in a teepee, even though we have not seen a single buffalo in the park. Yes, there's one in the opening, and there was one in the mesa, but that's about it. Teepees are designed for nomadic life, but this village seems to be in the same place for 35 years. In fact, later we see them trading corn, which means they're farmers, which goes against the whole nomadic thing. Akecheta's village seems to be near Escalante, and he hears gunfire and goes into the town to investigate. For some unknown reason, he becomes fascinated with the maze, even though it should hold no more intrigue than any of the many other items in the town. Why not the gramophone, or that umbrella over there? Akecheta then begins carving the symbol everywhere, which somewhat explains the appearances in some places, but certainly not others. Why would it be on the brand, for example? Did he teach the blacksmith this symbol? And Lawrence's daughter as well? I guess we have to assume he did. Akecheta is then brought to be reprogrammed in preparation for the opening of the park. However, the programmers do not have a wolf running within them called Diligence. The lazy ones don't reprogram him. This is pretty bold considering Arnold died in the park at the hands of hosts. One would think they would be a little bit careful. Though thinking about this more, I'm not really sure why this scene is needed at all. The host called Dolores remembered Escalante and her previous builds. If there were one host who would have scrutiny on her and be rewritten, it would be Dolores. Why do we need a scene where Akecheta is not rewritten? Akecheta is reborn as a savage Ghost Nation warrior, but one day he rides out and stumbles upon the human Logan. Logan has gone mad in the sun and is trying to find the door out of Westworld, and so Akecheta gives him a blanket to protect him from the sun. The words of Logan and his vision quest do speak to Akecheta, though he doesn't act on these words for years. And we also find out that despite spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and being a primary investor in Westworld, the park will allow you to nearly die and get severely sunburned. Back at the village, we see that some people have been putting the Maze Man on their teepees, and Akecheta remembers that he had a girlfriend. Believing Logan's words now, he decides to ride out further than he's ever been before, and he sees the construction for the valley beyond. He believes this to be the door out of Westworld. Of course, there is no explanation on why the control room hasn't noticed Akecheta being out of his loop. Eventually, Akecheta wants his girlfriend back, so he sneaks into her teepee with his nightmare makeup on, kidnaps her, and washes it off later. After being released, she finally remembers him. It seems like he could have at least tried going to the village during the day without his nightmare makeup on and just tried to talk to her. As the elders often say, there are many things easier than sneaking into a village with nightmare makeup on and kidnapping someone. He then takes her on a date to the valley beyond, but it's been filled in by now. The girlfriend being out of her loop seems to signal the control room, and so she's picked up. Akecheta, though, is like the wind, and the control room cannot see him. Or the horse. It's like the wind too. Half heeding the words of the elders, Akecheta returns to the village, this time without his nightmare makeup, but still in the middle of the night planning to kidnap someone. Sometimes progress is only as swift as a turtle. His girlfriend has been replaced, and so he decides to travel the world in search of her. Again, no one in the control room seems to notice that he's out of his loop. None of the writers seem to remember the story of the man who cuts wood. One day, Akecheta is dying of thirst, but the little girl gives him water. Of course, at the beginning of the episode, we find out that she lives fairly close to a river. I guess he couldn't find it. And after going to the village, now he's learned he can go there during the middle of the day without his makeup on, he discovers that others are being replaced as well, and the village leader says that others are coming out of the ground to get them. And so Akecheta puts his makeup back on and commits suicide by attacking a human. Akecheta awakens on the other side, and the men with technology find Akecheta to be miraculous. He is a host who has not been updated in 10 years. This is because in practice, they only update hosts when they die, which seems like the worst policy ever, like only getting your oil changed when your car crashes. Though the little girl lives in the family area of the park, I do wonder how often these hosts die. Also, if Akecheta has not been updated in 10 years, does he still have mechanical parts, or is everyone still mechanical at this point? Here we also actually see Akecheta's full name. It's just Akecheta, no surname. But first season, we actually saw all first-generation hosts with names that start with A. Even Akecheta's name is like the wind, unseen. And speaking of being unseen, the lazy programmers decide not to flag him, and he's able to wander Westworld for 4 hours. It seems that security, prior to the coming of the dumb one that we know as Stubbs, was even worse. He even makes it all the way down to basement 83, so I guess he explored 82 floors. And of course, no security shows up. Perhaps it's a holiday or a Friday before a long weekend. Akecheta finds his girlfriend but realizes that she's been retired. And so he returns to the village with the most solid, irrefutable proof that he found the village leader's son. Black hair. As true as the sun or the moon or the earth, there is no question that Akecheta crossed to the other side and found her missing son. Or gave her a piece of his own hair. We then have the man called Lee feeling emotion towards the host called Maeve. His tears flow like the autumn rains, though we should remember the drought Lee had for Teresa, or anyone in the office, or the hundreds he saw dead at the Mesa. But Maeve is special. They've been through so much together. She murdered security guards in front of them together. She brutally slaughtered an army of Japanese hosts in front of them together. And Lee had her gunned down together. It's been a touching, touching relationship. The Helmet Seeker then tells Lee that Maeve's code is in fact useful, but not Maeve herself. He then tells Lee to make like a tree. Akecheta then speaks to another member of Ghost Nation who worries that they will forget the maze, and so he asks for it to be hidden underneath his scalp. I sought out the shaman for wisdom on this practice. He said to me, "Young one, what are you, stupid? Why would you think you could survive a scalping? That's the easiest way to immediately have the maze exposed. Chances are you'll die and a technician will see what you're doing. On the slim chance that you live, you'll still have a massive scar. And so the next time you die for something else, the technician will see it as well. Plus, how does this help you? You can't see your own scalp. And certainly not the inside of your own scalp. Honestly, tattooing any other part of the body would have been more useful for remembering something." And next we pay tribute to the ancient spirit of retcon. Sometimes the stream of time flows backward, up the mountain. Here Akecheta says that he and Ghost Nation were only trying to educate the host called Maeve, but she misunderstood their intentions. And yet we have these flashbacks from the first season where Maeve is clearly being scalped. Is the spirit of retcon now saying that she wasn't scalped? Or is the scalping just one big misunderstanding? Ghost Nation was innocently trying to tattoo on the inside of her scalp the maze with the noblest of intentions. And golly gee, they didn't realize that would be taken as something bad. We then find out that the bastard Chad Summerchild was wrong. No, Ford did not plan it all. Akecheta and everything he was doing to spread the maze and find the door was a complete surprise to Ford. You see, Ford one night is checking for mazes on the inside of scalps of Ghost Nation. Really, he should have put on a smock. Westworld does have plenty of smocks. Of course, this makes the scene in Season 1 where Ford is shocked to see the maze and has to look it up even more ridiculous. Ford knew exactly what the maze was and how it was spread, and this scene proves it. That is, unless this takes place the day Charlotte Hale arrives, which is about 3 days before the incident. But that doesn't really make sense because he tells Akecheta to wait a while longer. Plus, he was kind of busy ordering Bernard to kidnap Elsie. Whatever the case, Akecheta believes there are many worlds and that there is a door to a new world that will have everything they've lost, including his girlfriend. Ford says to wait a while longer, and soon the Deathbringer, that is, the host called Dolores, will come to kill him. At that point, Akecheta should gather his people. And so once again, Akecheta is hanging near Escalante. Does he hang here every day, or is this a coincidence? This time it's after the incident, and he finds Ford dead and knows it's time to find the door. Except this doesn't make any sense, as Ghost Nation was mobilized before the incident. Remember, the dumb one they call Stubbs received a signal from Elsie's tablet. He goes to check it out, alone of course because he's a genius, and he's captured by Ghost Nation. So yeah, Ghost Nation was definitely doing something before the incident. This scene doesn't explain any of that. We then get to the human called Emily, who for some reason knows exactly where her father is with Ghost Nation. And for some reason she's no longer scared of Ghost Nation. She fled them in fear of execution a couple days ago. She wants her father back, and even though it's only been a few hours, the man in black is doing much better, even called healed by his daughter. I'm not sure what advanced medicine the shamans of Ghost Nation have, super herbs or mystical nanoprobes from the future. And even though Ghost Nation fears that he's going to cause more harm and they want him to suffer, they let Emily take him. They trust the words of a complete stranger, even one that attacked them a few days ago. You know, the writers could have just cut the entire Man in Black versus Maeve showdown, or they could have just had the Man in Black shoot Maeve. We then get back to the Helmet Seeker, who rather concisely tells the Heartless One that the mesh network can pass more than data. It can also pass commands. Still, the Heartless One, Charlotte, wants him to get to the point, so he says that Maeve's code can be used to control the hosts. And Charlotte tells us that, oh my god, the call is coming from inside the house. Maeve can now control hosts from afar, as if she wasn't already OP enough.